The person you can't stop thinking about doesn't have power over you. You gave it to them. Every time you checked your phone and felt your chest tighten. Every time their silence decided your mood before you'd even gotten out of bed. Every time you edited yourself to keep them close. You signed a contract nobody forced you to sign. Attachment isn't love. It's a transfer of power. And tonight, you're taking that power back. In the next 25 minutes, I'll give you 7 Stoic rules for emotional detachment, in a specific order, because each one unlocks the next. And by rule 6, you'll have the one thing most people wait years for, closure that doesn't require their permission. But first, understand what detachment is not. It is not going cold. It is not pretending you feel nothing. The Stoics were not emotionless men. Marcus Aurelius commanded armies, buried his own children, and ran an empire through a plague. He felt everything. He simply refused to be ruled by it. 2,000 years ago, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Detachment is not the death of feeling. It is the end of being governed by someone else's behavior. Cold is a wall. Detachment is a throne. Rule 1 begins where all of this began, inside your own head. Rule 1. Right now, your mind is running 2 files on this person. The first file is what actually happened. The second file is the story you built around it. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Almost none of your pain is coming from the first file. Epictetus said it plainly. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the opinions they form about things. They didn't reply for 6 hours. That's a fact. They're pulling away. I did something wrong. I'm losing them. That's a story. The fact is neutral. The story is a knife, and you are the one holding it. So tonight you open the ledger. Take a page, 2 columns. On the left, write only what happened. Things a camera could have recorded. No adjectives, no motives. On the right, write everything you added, the interpretations, the predictions, the meanings. Then look at the 2 columns side by side. Most people discover something humiliating and liberating at the same time. The left column is 3 lines long. The right column is 3 pages. You haven't been grieving a person. You've been grieving a manuscript, one you wrote yourself, in their name. You were never attached to them. You were attached to your draft of them. The ledger separates the person from the story, but separating isn't the same as releasing, because the grip itself has a mechanic. And once you see how it works, you can't unsee it. Rule 2. Hold a fistful of sand at the beach and squeeze. What happens? The tighter your grip, the faster it pours out between your fingers. Hold it with an open palm and it stays. That is the entire physics of human attachment in one image. Seneca taught that we own nothing. We borrow everything. Every person in your life is on loan. Not because life is cruel, but because everything that lives moves. People change, drift, leave, die. The Stoics called this impermanence, and they didn't find it depressing. They found it clarifying, because if nothing was ever yours to keep, then losing it was never a theft. It was a return. Here is the practical shift, and it starts with language. Catch yourself every time you say, my person, my other half, mine. Replace it, silently, internally, with this. Someone I had the privilege of knowing for a while. Say it once now, about them. Notice what happens in your chest. The sentence loosens the fist. The tighter you squeeze a person, the faster they slip. And the more you demand permanence, the more you suffer in a world that has never once granted it. To anyone, ever. Now, most videos stop here. Accept impermanence, let go, move on. But the Stoics had a darker tool. One that sounds insane the first time you hear it. And works precisely because it does. Rule 3. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum. The premeditation of loss. Marcus Aurelius rehearsed losing everything he loved. Not to torture himself, to disarm the ambush. Because here's what your fear actually is. An unrehearsed scene. The reason the thought of life without them hits like a heart attack is that you've never let yourself watch it play out. You slam the door on the image every time it appears, and whatever you refuse to look at owns you. So here is the drill. 90 seconds every night before sleep. Close your eyes and walk through it deliberately. The morning coffee alone, their name sliding down your messages until it disappears. The first week, the first month, 1 full year from now. You, still breathing, still working, still standing. Don't flinch away from the ache. Sit in it for 90 seconds. Then open your eyes and end the exercise. The first night, it burns. The third night, it stings. By the 10th night, something strange happens. The scene becomes familiar, and nothing familiar can ambush you. You haven't imagined losing them 100 times to suffer. You've done it so that reality, if it comes, arrives at a door you've already opened. Fear is just a scene you refuse to rehearse. But rehearsal has an enemy. You can't drain the wound at night if you're feeding it fresh material all day. Which brings us to the rule almost everyone in your position is breaking right now, maybe even today. Before Rule 4, one word in the comments: grip. If you have ever sworn you were done and still found your thumb hovering over their profile an hour later, type grip. Scroll the comments after this video. You'll see exactly how many people are fighting the same war you are. Now, Rule 4. Understand what attachment actually is. It's not a feeling. It's an organism. And like any organism, it needs to eat. Its food is information. Their story you watched by accident. The mutual friend you asked casually. The old messages you reread one last time. Every single one of those is a meal. And you are the one setting the table. You say you want to detach, and then you feed the thing daily. That's not detachment. That's farming. So here is the Starvation Diet. 30 days, 4 moves. 1. Mute or block everywhere. This is not drama, it's surgery. 2. Archive the old conversations. You don't have to delete the past. You have to stop interviewing it. 3. Remove the triggers you control. The playlist, the photo folder, the route past their street. 4. The hard one. When the urge to check hits, and it will hit, hardest around day 3, again around day 9. You do nothing for 10 minutes, just 10. The urge is a wave. Waves that aren't fed break. Every check you resist is a repetition. You are not missing them in those moments. You are in withdrawal, and withdrawal is proof the diet is working. You don't need closure from them. You need silence from them. But starve the attachment, and you will meet something scarier than missing them. The empty room. This is where most people relapse. They go back, not because the person was good for them, but because the silence was unbearable. Rule 5 is how you make the silence yours. Rule 5. Ask yourself honestly, what were you actually afraid of losing? Them, or the way they stood between you and the silence? Because most attachment isn't love of a person. It's fear of a room. The empty one. The one where it's just you, your thoughts, and no notification coming to save you. The Stoics trained for that room the way soldiers train for winter. Seneca wrote that the greatest wealth is to be content with little, and the least a man can have is his own company. If you cannot survive your own company, you will pay any price for anyone else's. That is how people end up begging for crumbs from tables they built. So you train it, like a muscle, in 3 drills. Drill 1. One evening this week, phone in another room, 3 hours, no substitute screens. Sit with the discomfort. It peaks and passes. Drill 2. Eat 1 meal alone, in public, this week. No phone on the table. Feel awkward. Survive the awkward. Drill 3. 10 minutes of pure silence, daily. No music, no input. Just you, observing what your mind does when nobody's performing for anybody. Week 1. The room feels like a punishment. Week 3. Something shifts. The silence stops being an absence and starts being a presence. Yours. And the day being alone stops frightening you is the day no human being on this earth can control you with the threat of leaving. The man who cannot sit alone will kneel anywhere. And now you're ready. Ready for the rule this entire video was built around. The one thing they can never give you, and the only thing you ever actually needed. Rule 6. The world sold you a lie about closure. It told you closure is something you receive. Their apology, their explanation, the conversation where they finally admit what they did and why. So, you wait. You rehearse the confrontation in the shower. You draft the message you never send. And every day you wait, you hand them one more day of your life for free. Here is the Stoic truth. Closure is not received. It is issued. You have been standing in that courtroom as the plaintiff, waiting for the accused to confess. Wrong role. You were never the plaintiff. You are the judge, and a judge does not wait for a confession to close a case. He weighs what happened and issues a verdict. So tonight, you write one page, 3 parts. Read them carefully, because this is the most important exercise in this entire video. Part 1. The record. What happened? Pull it straight from your ledger in Rule 1. Facts only, the things a camera would have caught. 5 lines, maximum. Part 2. The cost. What it took from you. Name it plainly, without poetry. The sleep, the months, the version of you that apologized for existing. Write it in past tense, because as of tonight, that is what it is. Part 3. The sentence. Not their punishment, your law. What is no longer permitted in your life, from anyone starting now. Access to me is no longer free. Silence will no longer be answered with pursuit. I do not negotiate for what should be given freely. Write your own lines. Make them non-negotiable. Then date it, sign it, and read it out loud, once alone in the room you trained in. That sound, your own voice issuing the sentence, is the closure. Case closed. Not because they finally answered, because the court adjourned. When you finally speak, it isn't a reaction, it's a verdict. But understand, a verdict only ends the old case. It doesn't build the new life. That is Rule 7. And it's where detachment stops being defense and becomes power. Rule 7. Do the math on what this attachment cost you. 2 hours a day of checking, replaying, decoding. That's over 700 hours a year. 700 hours of your finite life invested into monitoring a person who wasn't monitoring you. That wasn't love. That was capital, badly invested. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The energy doesn't disappear when you detach. It comes back to you all at once. And if you don't give it a destination, it will crawl back to its old address. So you run the 90-day reinvestment. The rule is one line. Every urge is a trigger. Every single time their memory knocks, you don't fight the thought. You convert it. The urge hits 10 push-ups. The urge hits 1 page of the book. The urge hits 1 task on the project you postponed for them. You are literally transferring the energy from the old account to the new one intrusive thought at a time. Pick 3 destinations before the urges come. 1 for your body, 1 for your skill, 1 for your mission. Write them where you'll see them. Because here is what actually kills an attachment, not forgetting the person. You never fully forget. It dies the day your present becomes more interesting than your past. They stop living in your head the day something bigger moves in. 7 rules. The ledger. Separate the facts from the story. The sand rule. Open the fist. The funeral rehearsal. Drain the ambush. The starvation diet. Cut the food supply. The empty chair. Own the silence. The verdict. Issue your closure. The reinvestment. Move the capital. In that order. Starting tonight. Because detachment was never about losing them. It was about recovering you. The version of you that existed before you handed over the keys. Now, detaching from someone who's gone is one battle. But what about the ones who stay? The ones who disrespect you to your face, provoke you, test you in front of others. And wait to see what you'll do. The rules change completely when the person doesn't leave. That video is on your screen right now. How a Stoic handles disrespect without losing control and without losing the room. I'll see you there.